Call this meeting to order. This is the Nowthen City Council meeting for the month of July 2020. It is July 19th, 7 p.m. We will call to order and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Frank, would you please call roll?
Absolutely. Mayor Pilon.
Present.
Councilmember Alders. Councilmember Blake.
Here.
Councilmember Greenfield.
Here.
Greenberg. Pardon me. I had a Councilmember Greenfield years ago. Councilmember Rainbow.
Present.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well, I'll take a motion to amend or approve the agenda as presented. I have two items myself that item 2I will be withdrawn. That one is something we've already addressed. And that's the quote and contract for 185th patching. And then under the 7 city council items, we're going to withdraw 7A. The resolution naming the Nowthen City Administrator. We need to get our contract in order first, so we'll put that on our next meeting. Question?
It's a secret.
Okay.
No, it's not. I just asked her about Bob. She said Bob's out of town.
All right. Any other amendments to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
I would like to add under council item 7F, and it would be in regards to the council binders.
Binders.
The binders.
7F.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else?
Sure. Now, 7C is 3-game mower, not 12.
And is that new one? What year is the new one?
2011.
That's correct.
Sorry about that. 3.
It's blue.
3 game.
Not
All right. Okay. Anything else? Seeing and hearing none, I would accept a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Greenberg.
make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Mr. Mayor, I would like, under consent agenda, is that now or later?
If you're going to amend it and pull it out for discussion, that would be now.
Okay, I don't know if it's pulled out for discussion, but I would, in the future, like contracted employees, a copy of their entire bill sent to us, not just general amounts.
Okay.
So we can see where the money is gone.
Not a problem. All right, so with that noted, we have a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Seconded.
And we have a second. Councilmember Greenberg moves. Councilmember Blake seconds. Any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On tonight's consent agenda, we have a number of items here. We have the approval of city council meeting minutes, the regular meeting on June 9th and a work session on June 16th. Approval of claims June 9th, 2022 through July 19th, 2022, and a treasurer's report. Approval of the project timeline request for proposals for city audits for the period of 2022, 2023, and 2024 for our financial audits. Approval of a grading and stormwater maintenance agreement for 19477 St. Francis Boulevard. Approval of a contract agreement with the Anoka Humane Society to provide animal control services for the city of Nowthen. Approval of resolution increasing the authorized expenditure limit for the city building security system by $3,251.02. Approval of resolution approving a temporary 3-day on-sale liquor license from August 19th through 21st, 2022 for the Ramsey Lions for the 2022 Nowthen Threshing Show. And approval of a resolution accepting quote awarding contract for 2022 surfacing project. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Blake.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, can I get clarification on what she wanted?
She wants, you know, we get the total invoices for the contracted. She wants to go back to where we actually get a copy. We get an email copy of the total package.
With subcontractors?
With subcontractors.
Okay, I wanted to make sure it wasn't the entire claims,
No.
all the bills.
No,
and
No, it's
just the
subcontractors.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Blake, a second by Councilmember Greenberg, was it? All those in favor of approving the agenda, consent agenda as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm sorry, I was an aye on that too. All right, we have floor items, and our floor items are for items that are not on the agenda. If we have the items on the agenda, we'll be discussing those as a council when they come up. So we have a couple of items, and then we have one here, recycling center. We will be talking about the recycling center, so we will leave that discussion for the council discussion. But first up, we have Jim Sadler, and I don't know if you guys are going to be together or?
Yeah.
Jim Sadler and Tim Corby from HRG Engineering. Please step to the microphone, give your name, address, and then you have 3 minutes to tell us what you have for us.
Okay, I'm Jim Sadler.
Thank you.
I don't know what's green.
I'm a 30-year resident.
Jim, is that light green on your,
I got 2 red lights.
okay, hit the bottom one
Tap
lightly.
it, just tap it.
Now we got
We have one of
green.
these in the back of the room?
Mr. Mayor and City Council members, appreciate you giving us some time tonight. My name is Jim Sadler. I'm a 30-year resident of Nowthen. I recently retired from Maple Grove after 42 years, 30 of those years as utility superintendent. 22 years on the fire department, 18 years as a station captain and an EMT. Past chair of the Minnesota Certification Council for Water Wastewater Operators and past chair of the Minnesota AWWA. So HR Green Engineering Firm was started in 1913. We currently have 650 employees throughout the country. We have 15 satellite offices, Illinois, Montana, Texas, California, Colorado, and South Dakota, and of course, an office here in Minnesota down on 280 and University. We're a multi-functional engineering firm from broadband to water, wastewater operations and construction, transportation, bridges. So we're a multi-functional engineering firm. How I got started with them, I had a client that had a rather large mobile home park, and they needed a certified operator, which I still have my Class A water operator license and my Class B wastewater license. And so they asked me to take care of this outfit, and so I do the water sampling, monthly checking of the system, and any complaints from any of the mobile home residents. I'm going to let Tim Corby talk about the infrastructure grants and funding that are coming down the pike, and I appreciate your attention and consideration for HR Green. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Again, Tim Corby, 4700 Marigold, Brooklyn Park. But more importantly, I was born up in Princeton and raised up in Princeton, Minnesota. So I kind of grew up in the area, and since 1987, I've been doing city engineering for cities all over the Twin Cities, and kind of my niche over the years because I've worked for communities of all size. In fact, I worked with Frank. I don't know if you were at Prior Lake when I worked there, or I know you were at Plymouth, but I worked for 2 of the communities, Plymouth and Prior Lake, when Frank was at those 2. But so I've been working with cities throughout Minnesota, from Grand Marais. I was city engineer up there, and up in Williams, Minnesota, down to Worthington and Leroy, Minnesota, and everywhere in between. So I've been working for cities for over 35 years, and kind of my niche is become grants. So a lot of my communities, let's say they want to do a road project. So my niche has been finding the funding source, finding the grant, and knock on wood, I've been fortunate enough for 35 years every single grant I've written has been funded. So far, 100% of my grants have been written. And, I'll give you an example, Bethel. I worked there a few years ago when they needed a wastewater treatment plant, and I thought, well, maybe the county could pay for it. They said, well, why would the county pay for it? Well, they have block grants. And ironically, the project was $300,000. And so I went to the county and they said the same thing. Why would we fund your project? Well, it's a city project. That's what block grants are for. We applied for it, 100% grant for the project. So I've been pretty innovative, whether it's a Cosmos, I got them a $2 million grant to pay for a new city hall. And what I do is I go after a lot of different sources. I'm politically pretty involved. I was actually president of all the engineers in Minnesota, ACEC. I was also president of DEED, if we've all heard of DEED, EDM, so their organization. I was their president too. And the reason I've aspired to become president of these various associations is just to get a little more politically, you can relate to that, politically connected. So when I'm going after grants, I do a lot of bonding bills, I do a lot of federal earmarks, PFA, DEED funds, whatever funding source I'm going after, I tend to use the politicians to my advantage. And so I know our time is probably just about up, but we'd love you to consider us in the future if there's any small project, big project. We work for communities of 200 up to city of Minneapolis, so everywhere in between. We've been doing work in Minnesota for over 40 years. And so this is where I've done all my work. If we were hired to do a road project or whatever kind of project you have, I would be your engineer on the project. And then we'd look at some grants. If you wanted to go after grants, I would certainly do that, whether it's a road, trail, whatever it is. I'd certainly help you with that. So thank you for your time. Look forward to your consideration of using our engineering services and construction service and grant services in the future. And please consider us in the future. So I don't know if there's any questions about our firm. Again, we've been around for quite a while, and I'm not sure bigger is better, but we're kind of a nice size. Not too big, not too small, but we have, whether it's roads or any other type of services, we can plan in whatever kind of services you need, we have them. So, and
we appreciate it. We appreciate you bringing your firm to our attention.
Yeah.
Yes.
We figure after 110 years, it was time we met with you. So, thanks.
Are you looking at the same presentation to communities around us?
I'll tell you one thing, for 109 years, our firm never did any marketing. We still only have one person that meets with communities, kind of answer your question, and he's at the mic right now, myself. So we really don't do marketing. There's a lot of firms that do a lot of marketing, they get out there. So the answer is really no. Because Jim lives here, we thought, well, why don't we meet with Jim's community? I've worked in my community too, Brooklyn Park. So, hey, if you live there, I've lived in Brooklyn Park for a bunch of years, why not do some work for there? I mean, obviously, with Jim living here for how many years? 30 years. 30 years. I would hope we would put some extra effort into any project we would do for you, being that he lives here. He owns a nice sized ranch with cattle. I would say that's probably on the east side, right, of the city. Northeast probably. And I think, so the answer is no, we really don't do any marketing. But after 109 years, we decided, let's go meet with at least Nowthen. so
we appreciate it.
So this is a special day for us, and it would certainly be a special client to us, and we'd give you 110% for sure.
Right.
So thanks for your consideration.
Jim has one more thing.
Oh, good.
One thing that is not exactly related to HR Green, but I put in there Minnesota Minwarn, which is a mutual aid pact, similar to what fire departments have, for public works divisions. So if you have a major incident, say a tornado comes through and you got a mess, and Joe can't handle it all by himself, he would make a call to the Minnesota State Duty Officer, and they in turn would call the regional director for Minwarn, and you would get all the equipment you would ever want. And that's in the back of one of the brochures. So, and it's free. It's a free system. Okay, it just has to be approved by the city council. And if you have any questions about it, I got my card in there. Certainly give me a call, but it's Minnesota Minwarn. So,
All right, I've got it here. Thank you very much.
thank you. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate your time, gentlemen.
How do you turn this off? Do you just press
Just hit
this?
that bottom button again.
Bottom button.
Oh, right there.
To go red.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we will move to the sheriff's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, City staff, and citizens of Nowthen. I have a report here for June of 2022. Time sure is flying, holy cow. We responded to a total of 147 calls in the City of Nowthen for the month of June. Calls to include 1 call to bar none, which I'll talk about briefly, 2 alarm calls, 3 medicals, 2 animal calls for service. The bar none call was a notable call. We've been doing quite well with our calls to Nowthen as far as some of the scope of the calls we've been to in the past. We haven't been seeing that. A lot of runaway calls, which that's a challenge we're still continuing to deal with. But this call was a suicidal juvenile who had acquired and sort of fashioned a makeshift cutting instrument. Those types of calls can be dangerous both for staff and law enforcement, fire service. Thankfully, our deputies arrived. They were able to disarm the child without incident and got that young child the help they need. That's what we like to see with our folks. That experience really shows when we're responding with experienced cops and firefighters. So we're thankful that was resolved safely. A couple other calls from around the city. June 10th, 2022, we responded to a hit-and-run crash on Viking Boulevard. An F-150 was rear-ended by an older black Chevy Monte Carlo. That vehicle did flee the scene, and we were able to broadcast the suspect vehicle information to neighboring police agencies, including St. Francis PD. St. Francis PD did locate the vehicle. Driver was arrested. He had an outstanding warrant out of Anoka County. He had a revoked driver's license. We also charged him with leaving the scene of a crash and failure to drive with due care. Again, that's another great example of us working closely with our neighbors and with our quick response time here in the city of Nowthen to resolve that. Another call for service, 8000 block of Viking. This was a business. A former employee had been harassing other employees, putting notes on vehicles, shooting fireworks, kind of being disorderly. Our deputies responded out. We located this young man. He was served with a trespass notice, and he was advised if he returned to that business, he would be arrested, which would be our intention on that. One more call. We did respond to a fight, 19700 block of Iguana Street. 2 males had been fighting in the parking lot. This was 11:49 p.m. on the 19th. The victim reported a suspect male fled on foot before deputies arrived. Again, deputies were in the area. One of the males involved fled. We didn't find him in the area, but what we did find was his wallet, which did help us identify who he was. So the wallet had been
They could always be so helpful, right?
Right, yeah, that's some crack detective work there. Wallet was found in the parking lot, and the other male involved was able to identify the person on the ID as the suspect. The suspect didn't want to talk with us, obviously, given their flight from the scene, so we did mail them a citation for an assault. Not a super out of control type fight, but a couple people in the parking lot getting a little rowdy. So presumably they heard the deputies responding and left post haste. But we were able to resolve that one safely as well. A couple other things from around.
Just a point, Lieutenant.
Yes, sir.
As we've talked about before, one of the things is we have had very peaceful restaurants and bars here in town.
Yes,
so
we
this
have.
is an anomaly.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
Yes, and I was surprised actually to read this report. We rarely get problems at any of the restaurants or bars like this. It's very rare. So we're not overly concerned that this is a trend or anything like that. But yeah, this is not a common call in the city of Nowthen at all. So.
Thank you.
And there are other communities that do struggle with that, as you know, but Nowthen's not one of them. So. A couple other things to touch on. The substation is up and running. The squad is in place and is starting and ending the shift in the city. I did send out some emails to everyone. Excuse me. To everyone with photos of the squad car over there at the city sign. As we've discussed, we're still waiting. Wow. Excuse me. Excuse me. As we've discussed, we're still waiting on squad cars to arrive from various manufacturers, including Ford and Dodge. As soon as we have the appropriate vehicle for the substation, that will be placarded with the city's name on the side, and I'll get those photos out to you just because it's kind of cool to see the city's name on the city's own police car. So we'll get that over to you as soon as we can, but until then, there is a car there in the interim that's gonna hold down the fort for us. 2023 contract numbers are starting to come together. I should have those available within the next few weeks to get out to city staff. We've discussed in the past some increases in cost of fuel, vehicle maintenance, and then personnel costs, which are dictated by our union contracts with our personnel. I'll make arrangements to meet with city staff and elected and appointed officials before the next meeting, and we can discuss further on that. And then, of course, it reflects our full year of service. We started July 1st of this year to the upgraded service level with the dedicated car, the substation, 12 hours in the city. This new contract, of course, reflects that across the entire year, which is something we're looking forward to as well. So that's what I have for this year's report, this month's report. Any questions or any follow-up for me today?
I have just a question, as we get our reports and the calls for service, we have 147, and it looks like we've got about 16 items actually delineated on
Yep.
the upper part of that report, and then some on the additional report that we have. What types of things are making up the other 130 calls for service? I mean, these are the highlights, obviously, but...
Yes. And it could be a variety of calls. We get a lot of general calls for service. Stuff that's not broken up on here would be, we get ordinance complaints, obviously animal calls you'll see on there. Traffic stops are not on there as well. That's another thing that's counted in city stats is traffic enforcement within the city.
So the 10 traffic arrests are just those where people were cited, and you have additional that
Right.
they may have been given a caution or...
Sure. Yes, sir. Could be warnings or other traffic type deals.
A citation is considered an arrest, or is that...
For the purposes of this report, I believe that's correct, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Otherwise, it doesn't trigger if there's no citation issued, there's no citation number issued, so that doesn't really log it as an arrest. So arrests, traffic arrests, custodial arrests within the city are very low. We talked occasionally about some DUIs and stuff like that. I talked about the hit and run crash, but generally those are going to be citations for moving violations.
So if it's during our contracted time, that officer would be the one bringing them into wherever whether it's the hospital or the jail, or...
Yes.
And then our coverage would be a backup. We'd have coverage while they're out of the community?
Yes, sir. If the dedicated city car does make a custodial arrest or has to go to jail with somebody or the hospital, both in Anoka or Coon Rapids, another car rotates into the area from the countywide patrols, and that's what helps provide that 24-hour coverage as well during the non-contract times, where there's always a car north and west in the county to help cover that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the council? Appreciate the thoroughness of your report and the efficiency. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Move on to the fire department report. Chief Schmidt.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
The monthly report for June from the fire department, we responded to 27 incidences on the month with an average response time of 12 minutes and 26 seconds. The average number of firefighters attending calls for service was 4.1 for the month, and the fire department reports $500 from dollar loss from fires for the month of June.
So Chief, could you put those numbers in perspective for us then? So 12 minutes seems...
12 minutes and 26 seconds.
And that's up?
That's up a little bit from May, so we're still kind of vacillating a little bit. If you remember from our end of the year report last year, we're hovering around that 15-minute mark.
Yep.
So we have seen a reduction with the addition of the duty officer vehicle. We're still a little bit higher than where we would like to be. Our goal would be 10 minutes, but definitely the time of day, the staff available, if the duty officer is actually available for the call when it goes off, all of those things kind of impact that response time. So you will see it wax and wane a little bit from month to month, but we're still looking at ways that we can reduce that response time overall.
Can I ask an additional question?
Yes, sir.
With the sheriff's deputy now on their 12-hour shift during the day, and I would assuming the type of calls that come in to the fire as an emergency, they would also typically be dispatched to?
Most of the time, unless the deputy's tied up on another incident, we would see a deputy on most calls.
So in that case, if there's somebody already in a car here and we're waiting for the volunteers to come in, they could be the first on the scene?
Correct.
And then do you have that coordinated, then they can respond to you to tell you what they're seeing, what your responders, so
Yep.
they know what they're getting into?
So all of the communications, there's dedicated dispatchers on both the fire and the law side, but they see the same screen. So if a deputy arrives on scene and discovers that the incident is something larger or smaller than the dispatched information, that they'll air that information to the dispatcher, they'll provide an update. That gets logged into the CAD system. The fire dispatcher then can relay that information without the two dispatchers actually having to talk to each other. So they're looking at the two different screens. One's managing the law side, one's managing the fire side, but all of those incidents come together. There is some linkage with Alina Ambulance as well, that we can see some of their updates, they can see our updates, and vice versa. That's the nice thing about the TriTech system, is it works pretty seamlessly between all entities responding to an incident.
Good. That's excellent out here where response time is so critical.
Absolutely. Just to highlight a couple events for you on the month of June. On June 4th, the fire department responded to a small grass fire on the 8700 block of Norris Lake Road. Thankfully, for the rest of June, we didn't see much for grass fires. Unfortunately, with the steady heat and the lack of rain, I think we're going to get right back into it here real quick. On June 10th, the fire department assisted Andover on a 2-alarm garage fire on the 1900 block of 167th Avenue. That was really kind of the start of the hot days, so that went to a second alarm very quickly just for personnel. On June 23rd, we assisted the Ramsey Fire Department on a garage fire on the 7100 block at Alpine Drive. On June 24th, the fire department assisted Anoka County Sheriff's Office and Alina on a rollover crash at the intersection of 213th and Basalt. Little interesting backstory on that particular incident. It was an Amazon delivery driver who had never driven on a dirt road before. And the change of speed from the pavement to the gravel was a little bit more than she could handle at the speeds that she was going. On June 24th, the fire department responded to a riding lawnmower on fire, second lawnmower fire of the summer on the 22700 block of Bridgestone. The fire did result in $500 in property loss. And as Lieutenant Jacobson talked about, the substation's up and running. It's been a wonderful relationship this far. The deputies that are assigned here have actually exchanged phone numbers with fire department leadership, so we can have that offline connection, if you will, for any needs that they may have at the fire department. So that's worked out really well so far. And just a point of note for council, I will be on vacation from the 25th to the 29th. I'm going to Grand Marais where it's not 95 degrees. So
Good for you.
with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Just came back today.
What's that?
I came back today. Yesterday was 57. Today was 62 when I left. So
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
that's the 25th through the 29th?
25th through the 29th, Assistant Chief Schrag and Assistant Chief Lawrence will be available.
All right. So the council received from Chief Schmidt an additional email regarding one of the incidents this month. And the big fire in Ramsey at the log room, that was this month. So that'll be
Yes,
next month's
so we've
report.
had the fire at Waltech, we had the fire just down the road with the timber, and then we had another fire the next day in Ramsey as well. So it's been very busy this
So
month.
that's mutual aid, so we cover the cost of the
Correct.
firefighters who respond, just like when we had our large garage or pole building fire.
Correct. And in turn, when they come to us, they cover their expenses.
So that was an expensive month, but
Yes.
important part of our mutual aid package. This is, I'd like to enter into the record just because it's good to have the positive things, and so I asked if we could share this quick. This is from paramedic with Alina, Heather Goosens, and on 7/17 we responded to a pediatric burn patient in Nowthen. Fire crew was already on the scene when we arrived. Crew is made up of Ginger and a few other gentlemen. I didn't get their names because we had to move quickly with this patient. I did get a chance to fully meet and thank them. Ginger had been providing medical support for the patient in the house with other members of the crew, making sure that all embers in the fire pit were fully out. They also taught the patient's parents about proper fire pit safety, and all without any judgment and with kind, compassionate manner. Ginger provided emotional support for the patient so I could do all of the interventions needed to take proper care of her within a timely manner. Ginger transported with the patient, and she helped me with supporting the patient so I could focus on providing medical care as needed. That scene, treatment, and transport would not have been as successful without this crew. Words cannot describe how grateful I am and how I am so excited to be able to work with Nowthen Fire on medical calls. Thank you again for this crew for being one of the best groups of first responders I have ever worked with. Alina is so incredibly lucky to have Nowthen Fire on our team. Our patients and community have the best of the best responding to their emergency. Thank you very much, Heather Goosens. So I think that's very commendable, and please, obviously you've shared it with the firefighters, but let it know how proud we are to have that fire department working on our behalf as well.
Absolutely will.
Good job.
So thanks to all.
Thank you.
All right, anything else for the chief? All right, thank you very much. Have a wonderful vacation.
Thank you.
Stay cool. The lake's a little cold.
I heard 43 degrees is the water temp right now.
It was, I almost jumped in, but I decided to only go halfway, so. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll move on to planning and zoning. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a wonderful evening.
Mr. Mayor.
First up, we have request for approval of home occupation on 22280 Hyman Street. Liz, could you?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. We have a request for a home occupation permit. Cheryl and Ryan Morgan are transferring their address and their FFL to 22280 Hyman Street. We have several other addresses.
Transferring from?
From Ramsey. They were in Blaine as well. So they have a good track record. Whoops. I did speak.
Was this the residents, I was at a 6-hour meeting in Ramsey earlier this year. Is this part of that discussion? Okay. I was going to say, that was an interesting discussion. So. All right. I'm sorry.
So this is the city approval of the zoning verification, and home occupation is necessary for their application before they get the formal review and approval by the ATF. So I do have a couple of minor changes to the findings, if you have those in front of you.
We do.
So on page 1 at the very bottom, item G, I did speak with the lieutenant about this. He had no issues, so that is an incorrect statement. They did not conduct a background check. The ATF will do that. So I think we should just strike item G, or just have a simple statement that's saying the Anoka County Sheriff's Office recommended approval with a condition added that, so on page 2, I would add a condition. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives reviews and approves the requested change of address for the FFL. So basically, this is void if the ATF does not approve it, but.
All right, so you're going to add that as.
Number 9.
Okay.
So from a zoning perspective and property use, we have no problem with that. The request.
Could you repeat number 9, please?
Number 9, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives reviews and approves the requested change of address for the FFL.
And do they then also do the background checks?
Correct.
So does that need to be part of that? They approve the change and do the background check?
Well, that's part of their approval. So if they approve it, they've already done that.
Okay.
Probably had it done about 5 times, huh?
So in this permitted home business, do we need to have a public hearing?
No, this is a permitted home business. This is not an IUP like an extended home occupation.
Okay.
Because there's nothing stored outside. They're not using the garage for the business or any of the outbuildings.
Will there be any on-site customers?
No, they,
All right. So no vehicular traffic within neighborhood greater in volume, all right. Anything else we need to know on this?
no, this was identical pretty much to the other requests. My knowledge have not had any issues with several others we've dealt with.
Yeah, as far as I know, we haven't had any calls for service on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question here. There's a reference in a June 14 letter from the Morgans that talks about, however, one of the parts that we carry is a serialized receiver and falls under the jurisdiction of ATM. I just don't know, what does that mean, a serialized receiver? Is that something?
Please give us your name and your current address, please.
My name is Cheryl Morgan. My current address is 7274 147th. So the serialized receiver part is why we have a license, right? That is essentially the frame of the firearm, right? In order to manufacture that, because that is what our license is, we have to have the ATF approval. We have to hold the licensure. And so we keep that part with us, the regulated part with us at where our two previous addresses are. That's where we've had all the serialized parts. Does that answer your question? Or, yeah.
What does serialized mean? Does that mean quick release of bullets? Is that?
No. So every firearm frame or receiver has a unique number, right? Like a fingerprint. And so we keep a log of all of that. That's what the background checks are all done on.
All right,
So,
it's the number of the specific.
correct,
Yeah,
yes.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the council? Seeing none, I will accept a motion regarding the request.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville.
I would move to approve the permitted home occupation for 22280 Iman Street to allow Airborne Arms LLC to operate according to the conditions as outlined and amended in the attached findings of fact.
I have a motion from Councilmember Rainville. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Greenberg. Any other questions or comments? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Good luck to you. And be as quiet as all the rest of them in town. We appreciate it.
thank you.
All right, septic system plan for 5160 204th Avenue.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this request is for a type 3 other septic system, which varies slightly from a type 1, which is a standard system, because it doesn't have the required 12 inches of native soil or undisturbed ground. So basically with the type 3 system, they bring in extra sand and create that 12 inches of filtration and then some. So in this case, the original soil borings were close to Highway 47. When we were going through stormwater discussions, they had to greatly increase the size of the pond along Highway 47. So they were forced to push this to another location. Normally, we would have required them taking a little land from the next lot over, but there had already been excess dirt stockpiled there, so that made that an ineligible site for a type 1 system as well. So we are stuck right now with this type 3 system. As you may have seen, I talked at length with Chris from Inspect, who is the septic system reviewer and inspector, and as well as the designer that designed it. And they are confident that after monitoring the first 2 years, that this system will last as long as a type 1 system does. So,
And should we fail within the 2 years, what's the plan?
so then they have to redesign and probably add more depth to it.
And that's the same thing if we see standing water.
Yeah, if we see surface water, right.
And so as the sketch here on the OSTP proposed design map, that is all on lot 1.
That is all on lot 1, between, there are 2 driveways in the front there by what is 204th Avenue, or what will be.
Okay.
So, and then as you see in the findings, there's a requirement that they record readings for the first 2 years to ensure that flows do not exceed the design capacity. So that's the biggest thing. And actually, with the tanks being installed last fall, it was to the designer's benefit because we knew exactly how many gallons they were using per day, and he could design the system accordingly. So that.
And we're at full employment capacity at this point, or?
Are you, Chad? Yes, okay.
So those are good numbers. So in the letter from Josh Putt here, he's talking about all of the findings shall be reported to the officials in charge for a minimum of the first 2 years. Who are the officials in charge?
That's the MinSpect, this Chris, the inspector. So
Okay.
MinSpect is our septic system reviewer and inspector.
All right, so that was reported to MinSpect. Then in the 4th paragraph down there, first sentence, as for now we propose that the tanks from the original design are installed and pumped regularly. A pumping agreement should be in place to ensure that this is being done. Is there a pumping agreement in place?
They had that done in the interim.
Okay,
So that, now we're on to the regular schedule, which is every 3 years.
okay.
Or, at least having it checked every 3 years.
So is the pumping, the water meter and accurate recording of the water usage, is that also from the temporary? Or is that going to be part of the
That will
new
stay as part of the current, or, new system, and that's what he reads. You open a little box and you read what the meter says, and it tells you how many times the pump has triggered and put water up to the mound. The tanks fill to a certain point and then it pumps it up to the mound.
Okay. Putting the water meter in, recording the water usage is required in the spring. We take these findings, create a new design. So we've got the findings now, so we've created the design based on those findings.
Yeah, he did actually revise the design since last fall. So he changed it slightly, and then that's the one, the new one was approved on June 28th by MinSpec.
Okay. Council have any other observations or questions at this point?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville.
Just confirming that as it is with any other septic installation, if there are issues in regards to it, it is the property owner's responsibility to correct them.
Correct.
Property owner shall make visual inspections of the mound area and make city aware of any surface water or ponding immediately. Property owner is required to record reading from the septic system meter at least twice per year to to ensure the flows do not exceed the design capacity and shall report these numbers to the city for the first 2 years. So right now, the official, they'd be reporting these to Chris. But we really need some way, as MinSpec is transitioning here, we need to make sure there's some kind of trigger system or follow-up in our system. How do we propose to do that with the transition MinSpec's going through?
I could talk to Chris about it. The other option would be to have MinSpec go out and do the checking twice, 2 times per year. But
Well,
if,
the-
maybe there's a.
My
maybe-
concern would be the same, whether it's MinSpec as they currently are configured now or what they're gonna be in the future, or the TOFs. I mean, somebody's gotta check it. Somebody at the city has to know that. Kinda like, right now, we track our septic systems being pumped every 3 years. Our staff is such that that can be a problem. So I just wanna know if there's some kind of follow-up in our system that says, kind of like we were talking about with IUPs and CUPs, there should be something that on a regular basis we have a way of monitoring compliance.
Well, this is really the first one of these that I've dealt with.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking the question,
Yeah,
because I'm looking at Natalie going, Natalie, can you handle that? She's going,
Right.
yeah, right.
My suggestion, Mr. Mayor, would be to put it onto our calendar to have it checked. To,
Yeah.
check with MinSpec then, so it comes up as a
Yeah,
task.
that's what I'm thinking, that we need to have some type of, going forward, these types of things, like we were talking about with IUPs, we should probably have a calendar alert that says, this is something, now, this is the first case of this, how do we do this? So we're at least intrusive to the business,
Right.
but also make sure that our groundwater is protected in the process. So I like the idea of a
Agreed.
calendar alert, and we could develop a more robust, what other types of things should there be on a calendar alert
So twice a year, probably be like May 15th and October 15th.
Okay.
Spring and fall. Obviously, you can't really get to it in the winter, so.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Blake?
do we have a system where we're checking the type 1 septic systems being pumped every 3 years by by all residents in our community?
We
So if
send out
someone
reminder
doesn't pump
postcards.
their system, we know that.
Yes.
Well,
No.
it's,
We-
it
we-
is not.
we-
I don't,
I'm sorry.
I beg to differ with you on that.
Whether we're
I have
monitoring
a
as
neighbor who
closely,
hasn't pumped for 20 years, so no, I don't.
are we doing something about it is a
That's what
different
I
thing.
want to know.
We do know that when they're pumped, the septic pumpers do submit that paperwork. We do
Right.
send out reminders, or in the past, we have sent out reminders on the 3-year notice, so they get a postcard. But the point you bring up is if they don't abide by their reminder, is the city currently doing anything about it? No.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
This being a type 3 system, it's a little, and a larger system. And obviously, the company's got scrutiny from neighbors. We just want to make sure we're doing everything right, so.
Right, yes.
But yes, Natalie will get on that, on your neighbors, as soon as she can.
Well, they just moved, so I think we're all
Okay.
right. I'm sure the new people took care of it.
All right, other issues with this? Any other questions or comments? You're good?
Yeah. Who do you want me to just take a picture of, like, October 15th, May 15th, and send it to the city with the water, or an inspector you're gonna want me to do?
Yeah, that's great. It's just a little, have
Yeah, I
you
know
seen
water-
it?
It's just a water meter like you have inside the house in the residence area, that's all
Yeah.
mounted in there, so
Yep.
it monitors how many gallons I'm pumping all the time.
Yeah, that'd be
Do you
great.
want it MinSpec or you guys?
Both, that'd be awesome.
Let's put a calendar reminder on for 2 years, 6 months.
And you can be thankful she's not asking you to go out in the winter and check that.
It's inside, so I'm okay.
Oh,
It's
okay.
right by the well.
Okay, we don't want you to suffer.
All right, with that said, we accept a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we consider approval of Resolution 2022-XX approving a septic system plan for 5160 204th Avenue.
Second that.
I have a motion by Councilmember Blake, second by Councilmember Rainville. Any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right. Item B, I'm sorry, item C. Preliminary plat approval for Toft Second Edition for 8 industrial and 7 residential lots.
Mayor,
Yes.
members of the council, the preliminary plat is pretty much identical to what you saw previously back in the fall, but they did lose one lot in the residential area for lack of a viable septic system. So lot 7 that you see kind of on the north side in the center is a large lot, and lot 6 and 7 were basically combined. The city engineer and I discussed this at length, and there's just a couple outstanding items from an engineering standpoint that they can easily address. From Shane's perspective, the couple things that I'd like to chat with you about or have you talk about would be that the Tonto Street, the stub street going south, the right-of-way is being platted, but it's suggested that just a stub be paved there. And, you know, generally speaking, we do like to pave up to the property line, but in this case, I think that the cell tower site or the radio tower site is not going to be developed for quite some time. That would be one item. The other question is...
So just to clarify then, Liz, that's on our first pullout here. The Tonto Street is where you see just the bump out between lot 4 and
10, yeah.
10.
Correct.
And so that would remain a green space with dedicated...
We would ask that they grade it with ditches, but yes, it would just be a green space.
And would there be an easement there for, if there is potential development to the south?
Yeah, you would still have the right-of-way dedicated as part of the plat. They just would only build that little stub and not the full street.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry, what else were you...
There was a question mark about whether any trails within that 100-foot, well, we can't go to the south with a trail within that buffer zone. We could go to the north. Obviously, there's no development there yet. But we've also gone on the premise that, you know, we use our local streets as trail routes. So the land to the north is residentially zoned. It wouldn't, I guess, hurt to have that option, but that they could also, you could accept cash for the park and trail dedication. And I am asking for a landscape plan just for the screening trees within that 100-foot buffer. So if you have any suggestions about what you want to see, I believe they were just showing evergreens. I would propose a staggered row of varying types of evergreens, not all the same species.
Yeah, that, you get a disease in one, you take them all out. So.
Yeah, right.
We've had various success with long needle, short needle, spruce and pine. Question on the Oak Grove side, we've got 205th Avenue coming up, Deer Ridge. Mm-hmm. Any thought of a trail there that would go along the north edge? That might tie into, do we know if Oak Grove's doing anything over there with?
I don't see, is 205th shown?
Yeah, it's on
Which
C.
graphic? Just C?
Preliminary plat, top first edition, C.
C0? Just that little stub up
Yep.
in the very northwest.
Yeah, I can't,
northeast corner?
I obviously can't tell what, from this, what's going on the Oak Grove side, but,
Yeah, I don't think that's an actual street stub. I think it was like a half street dedicated at some point, but, we still have time to investigate that as well, but, I guess I don't have a good answer.
you know, you remember, maybe, if you're familiar with Bailey Estates,
Uh-huh,
what we did over there is we checked with Elk River so that any potential trails they had coming east-west that would tie into their north-south trail system, we made sure we had connecting points in Bailey Estates and the developments adjacent to that, so that we at least had the potential for east-west that took us off of Viking and was a little more amenable to actual trails.
got it.
It'd be nice to know if Oak Grove's doing anything there, if we could connect to parks.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I guess the difference is yeah, you're dealing with a developed neighborhood, but if that's actual public right away, that's definitely worth checking out.
Because then if you go, you know, across 47 there, we're into the Kern Conservancy there, so I don't know if that conservancy has any public usage or if it's just, you know, the native species are being preserved.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know that she's got a trail that she rides around on the outside of that conservancy, so.
So you're thinking the trail would be along the whole north side?
Potentially. I mean, it would get people off, you know, 204th, the first half coming in 47 is gonna be an industrial road, so.
So what if this is a viable option, what if we take just a small corner and get up into that residential area? Because they have all their septic systems too along that north side on the front.
Okay.
5 lots, and there's an easement there going, you know, running between for utilities.
Yep.
And then you've got that big wetland, see, that is north of the residential 6, 7, and 8.
Yep.
So you'd almost have to go north first and then around and over to west of 47.
Well, if you could look at that and then, you know, if it's not feasible, then, like you say, we have the option of taking the fee instead of putting that in as part of the development, so.
Okay.
I know we're right on the edge of the park search area. So, anything else you want to bring up to us at this point, Liz?
No, that would be it. Our office recommends approval of the preliminary plat. If you'd like to add a condition about the looking into the trail issue, that might be good.
I would like to add that condition. Council, anything else? How are things working up there? Things going well?
It broke into a lot, but that's about it. We've been broken 3 times so far this year, so.
The front or the back or where?
Breaking into the trucks, and then somebody's backed up to the front door the other day, and the mechanics came around and caught him on the front door of the building at 10 o'clock at night. He was checking his belt on his engine, so.
Oh dear.
That's awful.
You're obviously working with the sheriff.
Yeah, they don't do much. You have broken, all they do is give you a police report over the phone, and that's the best you get, so it is what it is. So we got cameras and security systems, so it is what it is. There's not much you can do about it.
Oh my God.
We did put gates up around the back that finally got installed, so nobody can get in the backyard anymore. We have all the fences up except the one side, so we're working that line. They have to walk in the neighbor's property to get in there, so it's pretty secure now.
Okay, good.
Did you have cameras on the break-ins you've had to date?
No, I didn't have everything. They're gonna not have at this point, so I couldn't get some of the points. We have everything now, all the cameras finally hooked up and stuff, so I have 36 of them, so we'll see. So So we'll see if we catch him, but, it's what, it is what.
We'll be able to count the insects in the grass there.
All right, so it's what it is, nobody gets prosecuted for anything anymore, so,
Well,
Sad.
so we hate to concede that, though.
What's that?
We hate to concede that,
I
so,
do, it drives me crazy.
so obviously, we're paying for a law enforcement contract, and
I've had Anoka County, they asked if they could sit in front of our building, so they've been sitting out front of the building, and they've been catching speeders on 47 a lot, because they can hide off in the corner there, so they've been catching a lot of speeders going down that way, so. And then we've had Sherburne County and a couple other counties come over, because we know them, they used to use our building in Elk River and we've been working with the police department, I think Anoka's coming too, they're doing training dogs on drug search, they come and stick drugs all around their property and where else, and see their drugs, so we've had a lot of police activity around there, so we want to use our facility for that, so that's sort of fun to watch.
Yeah, that's cool.
well, would you please keep us informed if you are seeing illegal activities? Make sure we're notified, and now that we have a,
It hasn't been real bad, I mean, it's like $1,000 or $500, it's all personal stuff took out of everybody's truck, so I was paying back, and that's what it is, but I'll keep you informed if we keep seeing it. It's been better, but we haven't been broken now for a month and a half, so.
yeah, we're seeing a lot of construction vehicles being broken into, trailers being broken into, the whole trailer's being taken, so we,
I've heard war stories from some of our guys that did the work at our building where they just, everything gets stolen, everything's gone, it's crazy how much stuff, they're not. Just sad there's no consequences for people anymore, they just keep doing it, because they're not gonna get in trouble.
we're gonna do our part with the law enforcement through the sheriff, through our prosecuting attorney. Unfortunately, we get stuck once we get to a judge that decides not to.
Yeah, nothing you can do about that, you can have the best.
Oh, we can make a stink. We make sure it's publicized.
Yeah, you can have the best cops in town, but if they don't want to prosecute it, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, but we need to know that as a council, because if we're paying somebody to prosecute, we're paying somebody to catch them and prosecute them, we need to make sure if they're not following through on that through the legal system, that we make as big a stink about that as we can. So we want to know so that we can improve the system. I'm not willing to give up.
I can get license plates on anybody driving either driveway now, so night or day, so we're pretty good there, so if you want to drive me, I'll get your license plate at least.
All right, good. Because that's what we're doing with our various parks and recycling as well, so. And the sheriffs are doing a pretty good job
Yeah, they're real nice.
alerting them to come back and pay their fees or pick up their trash, so.
They've been really good, they've been sitting on the road a lot out front, so I have no complaints.
Good. Anything else that will be helpful to us, please let us know.
I will.
All right, so with that note that you're going to investigate potential trails related to other parks in the area, council have anything else they want to see on that? If not, I will accept a motion for the RCA.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
I would move that we approve the preliminary plat for Toft, second edition, inclusive of the 7 industrial and 7 residential lots, subject to the conditions as outlined in the attached findings of fact, and with the understanding that Ms. Stockman will look at the potential for trails.
Okay, and
I
then you're also-
second it.
So a motion by Councilmember Rainville, second by Councilmember Blake. And you were also going to take a look at the plan, the screening plan as far as the trees and,
Yes, true.
Yeah, that's in there as a condition.
all right. Any other questions or comments? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep us informed, please. All right, item D. Consider approval of staff report on the status of architectural standards and other site design criteria related to commercial industrial uses.
Mayor, members of council, just providing you a status update on our moratorium, which technically expired on July 13th, 2022. That was a one-year moratorium. I had been thinking back to our frontage road plan that we had done when we had a moratorium, and we were able to extend that one because it required review of outside agencies. The zoning ordinance amendments do not, so
Okay.
apologize if there was any confusion on my part there. So the plan is to send the ordinance amendments that we've worked through at planning and zoning, hold a public hearing July 26th, and that would come to you at your August meeting. I think it's August 11th, not August 9th. We did send letters to all commercial industrial property owners to be sure that everybody's aware of this change.
All right. So right now, they're not requesting any council action. It's an update to let us know. If you're available on July 26th and you want to see what's going on in the public hearing or watch it online, this will come up before us in August. And it is big. It's an important thing as we determine what our main streets in particular are going to look like, but how we determine architectural standards and requirements for our community. So it's a big one. Any questions or comments at this point from the council?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville.
And just for my confirmation, none of these changes are retroactive. It's anything going forward.
Correct.
So businesses do not have to worry about having to change existing structures.
Only if they put a large addition on, right?
So anything going forward,
Yeah.
anything existing stays.
New structure and large additions.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Liz.
Thank you.
Move on to item 7. We got rid of A. So, item B, consider approval of report regarding hours of operation for City Recycling Center.
Item B, 7B.
Frank, you want to update us?
Sure, be glad to, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Mayor, members of the City Council, at our June meeting, Mr. Sam Horn, as a floor item, raised some concerns about our present hours of operation for our recycling facility, indicating that it's a hardship for persons who work fundamentally an 8 to 4:30 or a 9 to 5 to get back into Nowthen early enough to be able to take advantage of recycling during the weekday evenings. We took a look at that. I was a little surprised, frankly, because I had not received any concerns of this nature. I have a sense that the City Council felt or had the same observations. And in fact, when I looked at the numbers for both April and June, it suggests that the number of clients go down the later you get in the evening. Now, one could argue, A, 2 months does not a year make, and 2, we weren't open late enough to really fully determine whether or not there would have been an uptick in customers had we been open later. The net Mayor and Council is the recommendation is to change our hours, and what we would recommend is that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, instead of being open 11 to 5, we would be open 11 to 7 each of those nights. So 11 to 7, Tuesday and Thursday. And what we would do is pare back on Saturday hours by 2 hours. So instead of being open from 11 to 5 p.m., we'd be open 11 to 3. My understanding is it's a weekday, one of the two, and so folks probably get their work done earlier during the course of the day and then kind of prepare for the rest of the evening at that point. That is the staff's recommendations to you. We've suggested that this be implemented as soon as possible, July 25th. The council may want to discuss that. It may be too fast, or maybe we just dive into it and see what happens.
Will we have an attendant if we start this next week?
Yes, we should. He should be back tomorrow.
Okay.
And, oh, by the way, Mayor, I'm sorry. I did run this past him to make sure that this, Kelly,
Okay.
our
Yes.
recycling attendant, just wanted to be sure that he could be in attendance so we wouldn't lose some services, and he likes this idea. It's,
And so the idea would be to give this a try and see what, because you track how many people are coming per hour, types of things they're bringing in, we'd be able to track and see if adding evening hours is actually beneficial. Impacting Saturday hours, I would tend to agree without specific evidence otherwise that most people are wrapping things up earlier rather than late on a Saturday. But we still would be open Saturday for the 4 hours and the additional hours Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then we can evaluate what type of traffic we're getting and adjust accordingly again.
yes, ma'am.
Okay? Council, other questions?
Go ahead, Mary.
I have two. One is in regards to the starting date. Adrian, who does our website update, is on vacation and is going to have a full plate when she gets back. So I think we should let her get caught up with what she's going to be doing as far as her existing workloads and then get it onto the website. So maybe delay that by a week.
So it'd be August 1st, well, August 2nd would be Tuesday, first Tuesday. So if we're doing it on Tuesday, August 2nd, would be
Yes.
delay it.
But that just gives her time to get caught up
And
with
the
what
public.
she's been out for a while and so.
It would also give you a chance to post at the
Post it,
recycling
yeah.
center so people would have a chance to see that there.
And then my second question is Saturday, 11 to 3. I would think 8 to 12 would be better.
Yes.
I don't know if that is acceptable to Kelly based on other commitments he has. But I would think 8 to 12 would be a better than a 11 to 3. When we do our recycling date,
Yes.
people are there before we're there at 8 o'clock. So I think that, and for an employee to be able to get up, get his work done and leave is
Be done by noon.
is a benefit to him. So I don't know if that is something council would consider, and if Frank would have to confirm that with Kelly, if he would be able to do that.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember
Those were
Blake?
my exact thoughts, what I was gonna bring up Saturday. After working it, we all know that the morning is when people wanna come, because they wanna get their own work done. And they get going. When you work recycling, we have a lot of activity the earlier in the morning. So I just think it's a much better idea. I agree with Mary Rainville on this. Councilmember Rainville, excuse me.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Joel, you've worked it?
I like that idea. 8 to noon on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
2 of the days go later. That'll give people a chance to go there after work if they can't make Saturday.
All right, and again, we can give it a try and adjust accordingly. I like the fact that between Kelly and Adrian, they're tracking the usage so that they can tell
Very good.
what types of things are coming in the volumes. All right, so in this case that Frank will check with Kelly and see if Saturday 8 to 5 or 8 to noon works. And an August 2nd start date would give us a chance to post it online and at the building itself.
Perfect.
Sure. Mayor, members of the council, would you mind just doing a simple motion on that? So you just, like a resolution, move second.
Yep.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
as the recycling liaison, I would move that we change our hours at the recycling center. So Tuesday and Thursday, we would be open from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturday, 8 to 12. So Wednesday and Friday would continue to be 11 to 5.
And that's contingent on,
Contingent
Staffing.
on staffing, yes.
and then an
Be
August
effective,
2nd.
would be effective August 2nd.
And we're closed on Monday?
Closed Mondays.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Rainville.
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Greenberg. Any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Hey,
All right, and we have a 3-gang mower to dispose of. And that's an 89 Toro. And our new one is a 2011.
Well, that is correct, Mayor. I'm sorry. I was trying to see whether or not I had those numbers twisted around, 89 versus 98. In any case, it's quite old. It's 6,800 hours of operation and considered elderly, if you will, for a piece of equipment at $5,000. There are two problems with it, aside from dependability loss. One is it no longer has a street gear in it, which means it takes a while to get from point to point unless you want to trailer it, and it's big for trailering purposes. And secondly, it is starting to show oil burning, which is not a good situation. We have gotten additional miles out of it because it's my understanding, speaking with Joe, that it's got a Mitsubishi engine in there, and that's one of the things that attracted him to it. He knew it would outlast the numbers, if you will. But it is replaced at this point. We like the new mower. We have just one little kink to work out with that, but we believe that it is time to get rid of this mower, and min bid is one of the acceptable means of doing it under Minnesota statutes 471.345.
It does look like that was transposed. On the min bid, it's 1998.
Thank you. And one last point. I'd suggest that we put a minimum bid on it for $5,000. Here again, this is advice from Joe, and I think it's very good advice. People who want new mowers are waiting for them. People who want used mowers are waiting for them. Here we've got a mower that, yeah, they could make some corrections to, and they could have a dependable mower. Why not at least see whether or not we're leaving anything on the table?
I agree. All right, so with that correction of the date of the original the 580D Toro, looks like everything else is in order there. $5,000 consignment. Do we have any other questions? Joe, still here?
yeah.
Any other questions for Joe or Frank?
I just want to make a comment. Joe, I love your little log of what you had to do to that mower over the years. Timing gear, main belt, fuel line, hydraulic line, fuel filter, return line. Wow, I love seeing that little chart you made of what you had to do to that old piece of machinery.
Yeah, you're, you're a good repairman.
All right, if there's no other questions or comments, I would accept a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Blake.
I motion that we consider approval of Resolution 2022-XX authorizing disposal of one 1989 Toro 580D 12 gang production mower through min bid auction with a minimum bid of $5,000.
Just for clarification, it's actually a 1998 3-gang.
What?
We amended that. It's a 1998, not 89. And it's a 3-gang, not a 12-gang.
My fault, Councilman.
I amend that.
All right. So we have a motion from Councilmember Blake. We have a second from Councilmember Greenberg. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Item D, Consider approval of resolution authorizing the purchase of Class 5 to top dress 6,700 feet of Twin Parkway and 1,250 feet of Spring Hill Road. You have a RCA in front of you. Do we have questions on that? If you don't have any questions, I would accept a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
I move that the council, can I say how it's worded here?
Consider.
Yeah, adopt the resolution 2022, or 2022-XX as proposed with amendments, which there weren't any, and it was the placing of Class 5 on Twin Lakes Parkway and Spring Hill Road.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Rainville.
Second.
A second from Councilmember Greenberg. Any other questions or comments? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Well, it might be good if we, I don't know how much trouble it would be if we numbered our RCAs, then they could make it easier just saying RCA whatever. That might get goofy if we have to change the agenda at all. All right, item E, consider approval of resolution 2022- to be determined, authorizing the hiring of a temporary part-time employee to complete the electronic scanning of paper records and other duties as assigned the temporary office employee. You received a job description this evening. Primary responsibilities, secondary responsibilities, and qualifications. We'd be talking between 16 and 25 weeks, 20 hours, or until completion. The work schedule would vary depending on the candidate's availability and the city needs. Did people have a chance to read the job description?
Okay, Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville.
Upon seeing this RCA, I reached out because it was basically focused on the scanning of documents. I reached out to a previous employee, Lisa Lawrenson, who was initially hired to do scanning, and asked her if she would, I advised her that there was going to be this opening, and would she consider applying for it. I believe she did. She was very professional in her work. She was very, very concerned that things were done correctly, and she felt that it wasn't done right after she stopped doing it. She said she would be willing to come in for 40 hours and volunteer to train the new person on scanning the documents correctly, and would be able to then, I think, help go back to the ones that were scanned that need to be rescanned. And so everything would be the same. And she was very appreciative of the call, which I appreciated given what had happened. But I believe she did a very good job. She was very detailed in what she did and really took pride in what she did. And I think that she would be able to train that new person in on the scanning. So if council would consider that, I'd appreciate that.
So are you adding that to the resolution?
It's not adding it to the resolution, it's just that if the council goes forward with this position, that city staff understands that there is this possibility of Lisa coming in and giving 40 hours of her time to train that person in.
And we would pay her, obviously.
No, she wants to volunteer.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
So certainly, I think, obviously the first thing is to get somebody in there that she would be training, and then between Frank and the administrator Lehner and office staff, we can figure out how best to utilize those volunteer services.
Mr. Mayor,
Stockman.
may I ask Councilmember Rainville a question? Do you agree that part of that organization was kind of having a standardized way to save files? I mean, with that date, and she did have very much a knack for organization. But yeah, and then if there are any questions about where to put things, I can always answer a question.
Okay. So Natalie, I assume that's all helpful information to you. Okay.
It is, thank you.
So back to the question of this seasonal help, we've got cap on weeks, cap on hours, obviously flexibility because this is seasonal work. It has to be work for first of all, for the office staff, so it's not adding extra burden to them. But the idea would be to clean up those files and certainly the pile of things that are amassed in the back room. If we can find what we can legally dispose of, this would be a good time to shred files that are past retention date. And I believe that retention records, state retention record requirements have been obtained.
Yes.
You have those?
We have a notebook, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So with that, with the job description you have in front of you, and we would have certainly the opportunity with Natalie, Frank, and Mr. Lehner to take a look at the opportunities for fulfilling this position. Any other questions or comments?
We need to get another computer.
That's part of the RCA.
And for Ms. Stockman, she's been asking for a password for a long time for she can get into her work.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
we are working with Arby's to get that virtual station so that both Liz and I could work remotely.
Right.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I meant to bring this up earlier. We say that the necessary equipment is $1,500. The original quote we received was $1,500, and then they acknowledged that the 2 screens that were needed for that computer were not included, which brought us up to $2,000. So I am shy by $500.
Okay.
All right. And this is coming out of the ARPA
Yes,
monies?
yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Greenberg.
I make a motion that we approve this resolution to authorize the hiring of a temporary part-time employee to complete the scanning of paper documents, and we adjust the amount of money to $2,000 for the computer.
So total max would be $9,500. And these are coming out of the federal funds we received. All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Greenberg,
Second.
a second from Councilmember Rainville. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and now we have last item F, council binders.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
city staff has been putting together these binders for us, and I truly appreciate it because it's something I've done from day one, and now I don't have to do that. So I thank you for that. But one of the things I'd like to ask, in consideration of what they're doing for us, if we can do something for staff. So at the end of the meeting, we would take out any documentation from the packet that we no longer want to keep. We all got a email with the packet, so you have it on your computers. Take out anything you do not want, keep anything you would like to have for reference, and then return the binder to the staff with just the dividers in it. And then it just makes it easier for them to take the empty binders back. They don't have to go through it the next day and do all of that. It's just in consideration for what they've done for us that we do that for them. And if that's appropriate, then we would also get a new recycling bin here that the recycled material, it's all public record, so it would just go right into a recycle bin here, and then our recycling attendant can periodically come over and empty that. If anybody has any questions on that?
No?
Is it reasonable? I mean,
Seems reasonable.
I took mine home and returned the binder. I just don't want to spend extra time here putting away tables while people are pulling things out of the binders, but.
and I just do it
As
as
long
we're
as- long
going
as
through
it's
the
returned.
agenda. Yeah, as long, I just do it as I'm going through the agenda. This I don't need, this I need.
I just do it when Mary's talking.
Which is quite often, isn't it?
Have plenty of time.
Yes.
All right,
Thank you.
so noted, we will get the binders back. Taking out what we want to return. I think it was just a recommendation. We just want to get the binders back. Anything you get back in the binders is yours to dispose of. Anything we want, we will take with us. All right, anything else here? Otherwise, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Greenberg.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Mayor and council, just
Or it was Mary.
one note. I have the updated code enforcement spreadsheet for you. I am not planning on doing another one before the next meeting. So anything you want to pull, you could add to the August meeting. And I will be out of town the 27th, Wednesday to Wednesday, 27th to the 3rd. And so I will put on my email response, Dan's phone number.
Okay. And so you've got the update for now, and that's what we're going to see in August.
I will send that out tonight or tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay.